Like if Zed's E was like 3 seconds level 1, and maybe with a stronger slow. Like they could buff the slow and the E and the cooldown. That's a possibility. I don't know, maybe I can't run this page anymore. Because you don't really scale. You don't have a Reap. And you're never gonna get fed early game with these runes. Maybe I should take like Scorch Absolute Focus again. But then you really don't scale. You're kind of like a worse Talon at that point, because Talon does more early game and mid game than Zed. And they'd have a similar power level late, I guess. It's like, sure, Zed can dance around and reset, but you don't really kill anyone while doing it. Probably over nerfed. I just don't know when you're supposed to be strong with these runes. Or, not these runes, just Zed in general right now. I got first blood this game and I lost a 1v1 like in melee at level 3. It was not even that close, to be honest. Like, I got stat checked even though I had double longsword. Cause I was in my minion wave, which is the fucked up part. So he was taking minion aggro, I wasn't. It wasn't even the designer. Like, he wanted to like go easy on Zed. He just messaged me too. He thinks they're a little too harsh. We'll see. I mean, if they're too harsh, then they're gonna undo it, right? Just have to wait till next patch. Let's see how Zed scales. He probably scales fine, actually, if you take Gathering Storm Transcendence and overcap your CDR. The scaling is probably okay. The only thing that sucks is, like, trash early. You think that the pass-through damage could get buffed, maybe? Since they wanted to just nerf burst, not the poke. Like maybe they can make it more rewarding for hitting Q through minions, since they're nerfing the burst, buff the poke. That way, like your lane phase strength is the same. Because if the pass through damage had 10 more base, like move the 10 damage to the pass through. Holy shit! Holy shit! Wait, apparently he tripled his ban rate and win rate. Or maybe maybe he didn't mean tripled. He mean like, oh, I don't think he meant tripled. Okay. I'm coming. Oh, wow. Alright. They should get this. Kali's got it. Nah. I thought you said it tripled. I thought he said tripled. Hmm. You wanna talk about it on my stream? Like ways to lessen his frustration? That's why I thought the nerf was excessive. So, okay, so basically what he's telling me is Zed just tiptoed the line of OP, and then they nerfed him as if he was like way OP, rather than keeping in mind he just tiptoed the line, so didn't really need extreme like nerfs. Oh, it's nerf Zed, by the way. What the fuck? Make him like AD Cass. nobody really cares. Yeah. Trash early, but you know you have the scaling. Because people always complain he's too strong early. Yeah, but... Okay, hold on. I gotta stop griefing. That would lower the frustration of losing to him, but also give us a point where we are super strong. Yeah. Also, just tilts players to lose against. Yeah. So, it's actually really cool. What was the thing you were going to do before? Like, with the snapback? Was it trade snapback for reap for snapback? Just to remove R2? That would... But the deeper issue here is low elo don't build armor. I actually like that you prep W to get that. Yeah, but then we have the 22 sec W again. So I was playing in silver today, and like they always take the HP rune and don't buy seekers. So Zed's damage is way diff in low elo compared to high. It's like two different champions. Do you think you would have to rework armor pen to bridge the gap? Because if it was the same, it would be easier to balance, right? He didn't triple low elo metric, really. Was OP in high elo? Wait. Wow, I really didn't expect that actually. IMO just nerf his win rate last patch was 51% basically iron to 52.5% high diamond. So it's like a 2.5% difference almost. It's really odd. His ban rate's higher in low elo for sure. So he's better in so he's statistically stronger in high elo, but he's statistically banned more in low elo. So low elo just don't like him. I see. But his win rate just wasn't good enough for us to be forced to nerf him. We did have to nerf him for the high diamond players though. Alright. Do you think if Zed needs a buff again, it would be in the same way? Like Q buff and WCD buff? Or would you guys try something else? because you talked about frustration, and because Zed's kit is just really good late game, losing to him early and knowing it's over is prob what causes the most frustration. Hence, I assume next time we would. So basically, they don't think they're going to buff him because they think it would just put him back in the same spot again. So next time we decide to work on Zed would be something larger. Wait, like rework? I would be really surprised if it was a rework, just large mechanics change. Hmm. In general, he's kind of a really good champ. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Nobody wants to see him reworked, but there's a couple things you can similar boat to Yasuo. There's just a lot of people who hate playing, but obviously a really good champ. Yeah. Remember when we talked about his passive? Is that still off the table? I really want to talk to him about E too. Like the E could probably like thing is right. Like you don't like now with that the Q in range matchups, right? The Q damage is probably fine. It's just that when it comes to melee matchups, you lose in melee because you don't have enough damage because of the E base damage. The E just sucks. Like it's too long of a cooldown. The base damage is like the AD ratio and base damages are like only average. So you're not really gonna win trades with E level 1. I think an E change would be really cool. Changing his passive would also be really so like sick too, because his passive is like really bad in high elo. So at the moment, right now, it's deal 6, 8, 10 at 1, 11, 17. Percent max HP versus targets missing 50% HP. That kind of nerf is low appreciation, so people wouldn't like that, and high win rate impact usually. Kind of opponent should be like, fuck yeah, Zed got stumped or dumpstered, but really not. But what if Zed was meant to lose early and win late? Also buff the E. The Q change is not a big deal versus ranged matchups, but versus melee feels doomed because they have better stats, so you can't win trades with Q in melee. And buffing E would not like make him too good versus the range matchups. I wonder what he thinks of this change. Basically, I'm asking like, what if they buffed his E? Because like in melee matchups, like now the Q's too weak to win trades against melees. So buffing the E would make it so you can trade better with in melee with them. And at the same time, buffs to E don't break him. You could give 10 damage to his E, it would make him be able to trade in melee with melees. And like, but when he combos you, it's not gonna be like a huge alt, like all in, like burst buff. Because the thing about like the Q buffing is you have to consider he gets 2 Qs. Whereas with the E, it's always going to be the same. With this current version of Zed, though, he needs like some late game damage increase. We're basically back to 9.3, but without late game scaling. So you don't get to take early game runes to try to go even in early game. You have to take late game runes on Zed Dispatch, I think, just to have a late game, which means you're kind of like a minion. Like if we had, imagine this current version of Zed, but just no snapback delay, and we had the Reap. Obligatory. What do you think about Zed right now? Um, He's probably too weak. Only played 2 games though, and both of them have been against like cheesy Zed counters. AP Nautilus mid and Diana. I haven't actually faced a mage yet. It's also kind of awkward that Zed's passive maxes out at level 17 rather than like 16 when it's like it seems to match. I guess back then when Zed's passive was created, games lasted longer, so you reached this point a lot faster, 17. Maybe they can buff the passive, actually. Make it turn on faster. See what that does. Not sure that would actually do anything though. I feel like healthy long-term changes on Zed would be like making the snapback scale with level and lowering the W cooldown. The same buffs we just had made him too good. So they need to do something to Zed that will lower frustration but buff him. Which honestly that sounds like reworking his ultimate. The old ult where the shadow spawned behind him made him non-W reliant. Actually, if he wasn't so reliant on his W when he ults someone, then it wouldn't be a big deal, right? That his W cooldown so long if his ult shadow spawn behind them. So it'd actually be a good change for Zed if the shadow spawns behind them. Because it also means that like when Zed goes in, he needs to like commit. He's basically committed unless he throws a shadow behind him with his W. But his W has such a long cooldown. If you force Zed to use it and then fight him, then you'd be at a huge advantage because of that. And then at the same time, late game, it doesn't cuck Zed because Zed has more age. Like Zed can decide what kind of fights he wants to take late game. Just so I know before. What causes the most frustration? Is there any data that hints as to why? Or what? I mean, I'm actually curious like what causes the frustration? Just make not reverse, just make. Oh, wait, that wouldn't be fair though. Yeah, that would be too strong, dude. Because then you could just actually like reset for free late game. Like you'd have your late game would be too good. They could increase the W cooldown more. Yeah, but that would then that would nerf combos, right? Late game, because you can't buff like with that Q buff. You can't buff his W cooldown early. That Q buff is insane. You don't need W to poke because of that. But then nerfing it late would strictly make him worse in combos in which you wouldn't go for melee ease, which is most of his reset combos anyway. So that would actually make him easier to play, but more frustrating and worse in the hands of good players who are using his resets correctly. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, I think just like maybe pass through removal is actually the way to buff Zed. Maybe that's what they should do. That'd be huge buffs to his poke though. Right? Like massive buffs to his poke. Interesting. Talon's not frustrating to play against though, because he doesn't really do well in lane. This is going to be a guess, so I'm sure people get frustrated by Zed in a lot of different reasons. Nice. Yeah, that is a thing. You just R auto attack plus E's until you die. Dodge shuriken and I win, but at some points that's just not the game anymore. Uh-oh. Not this. Not like this. Ah, I missed my W. Yeah, true. Doesn't that enforce incentive to rework passive? Seriously, a suggestion was shrink model size by 10%. Wait, that's why they did that? I can't believe it. Back a long fucking time ago, in like season 5 or some shit, when they nerfed Zed's model, it was because they wanted him to make him look less intimidating. Or they didn't nerf it. They technically they buffed him. They made him shorter. What the fuck? That's actually jokes. Let's go Baron, guys. Go Baron, Chiefs. Oh, he got larger. Oh, maybe I remembered it wrong then. Oh, okay, I get it. And we asked to shrink him back. That's a big boy. So make Zed shorter, smaller. Vayne? Oh, fuck. Okay, Kazakhs, work your magic. Nice. Got a win today. Was not on Zed. I think the... He's a big boy. Big boy. Maybe it is the ability to kill without hitting Q though while ahead that makes people get frustrated. That one's kind of unavoidable. You could make E only give pen some kind of pen rather than any damage. So and load everything into Q. That would also mean you could buff the size of his E since it wouldn't actually be AoE damage. Plus 16, yikes. The only reason Zed is given so much attention as far as nerfs is because of the feeling of hopelessness people get when they are killed by a skilled Zed player. Wait, actually spitting facts, dude. Who are you? You can't say that, dude. You're not supposed to. Come on. Making the Shadow Slash utility only. You get hit by the Shadow Slash, then your armor gets debuffed. If you're against like an ADC with no armor and you have like 3 items, you don't even need to hit Q to kill them. Like 2 auto attacks, E, electrocute, ignite with passive probably kills them. And ult. So Zed would only have 1 damage ability, yeah. Put everything onto Q. But that would also kind of feel shit sometimes. But it would feel really good in others, so you'd have to try it, I guess. Like you could have outplayed the Q. So that was your counterplay. Dodge the Q. If you do this change, you would have to buff his auto attack though. It'll sack the wave clear though if there's no damage on E. Make E do no damage. Just be a slow, reduced pass through reduction on Q. If they removed the base damage on and scaling on E, they would have to like make his Q base damage like super high since it's his only damaging spell, right? You would have to buff the Q to like 1.2, buff the base damage by like 100. But then you'd have to hit a triple Q just to do the same as an E, which would actually nerf him. But it would make him better at level 6 because then you'd have armor pen, right? So you would have armor pen, so you would ult them at 6. They should drop if you have Dirk. But like once they have Seekers, you don't do enough. So armor pen could make the difference. If they have Seekers with Spare, how the fuck do you kill that? You kind of just can't. Unless you have like... Unless you've poked them to like half HP, you can't kill through Seeker's Barrier. I'm just gonna do a change list in my head. And just... Let me see. Should probably bring back his late game scaling, though. Like, the percent WAD should come back for sure. I think all the Zed players miss that. That scaled to like 20% bonus AD. We all missed that because it was like, it was something there you don't see, but you really appreciated because it gave you that scaling that you kind of need. I mean, in general though, like there's room in his kit to be added to his kit. There's room to add a new mechanic to his E. It feels really dated, and hitting multiple E's isn't really rewarding for the risk. Example would be you are Lux. You short, you cast the WE as close as possible. She then just flashes away and you can't follow her unless she flashes. Unless you flash. So basically what I'm saying is like you ult someone at 6, this happens all the time. You cast WE as close as possible to get the slow, but then they just flash away. And so the reward for doing that's kind of low. You would want to throw your shadow. You usually don't do that. Just throw your shadow in their flash distance area, and then combo. The slow, the multi hit slow is good It's just that it's kind of pointless. Yeah, because you would never want to go for it. So when it happens, it's not really even intentional. It's also super awkward to go for because if you are someone and land behind them, you can't cast and they are running away from our shadow. You can't cast W close enough to them. Basically saying the minimum range cucks you. It's really hard to be accurate with the W cast if they are right on top of you. Usually when I try to do a usually I have to reposition before I even combos. I'm not saying it's hard. I'm not saying it's hard. It's just that the minimum cast range sometimes fucks you over if you want to go for it, and and usually you aren't you don't even want to go for it because you'd rather place the W in the area they could flash to. I'm just gonna hop into a training and show you guys what I mean because I feel like I'm just not like describing it the way I want to. What I'm talking about. Galaxy's Edge waiting room. That skin's gonna be fun. The skin's gonna make up for the nerfs for sure. Basically, what I mean, because you have a way usually to use W after R. Yeah, but you can't kill unless you triple Q in most situations. Yeah, I'd say in early game. I'm just thinking about early game here. Like what I mean, by the way, so the minimum cast range is like, let's say someone's standing right next to you. Let's say they're right here. You want a W, it puts it in a kind of awkward position. Like you don't want it here, you want it here. And I'm just like saying like, this is a small thing, but like if you could cast it in the place you want, it would be better. I was just mentioning that problem with his early. I do want him to be late game though. That's the most the least frustrating version of him, and also the most powerful in my opinion. I stayed chow all essay with that playing a late game style with Z. So yeah, I alt, and then let's say they moved right here, and then I want a combo, right? I put my mouse. That's exactly what I mean. Like, look. So picture, okay, when I alt the target dummy, he's gonna move right here. Just keep that in mind. So I alt, and then he moves here, and then I want to like WE, but then it works there sometimes, but like as you saw the other time, it just didn't go where I wanted it. It like went fucking here. Yeah, I have to like move backwards. It would be an interesting bit of design rethinking. Normally we don't expect assassins to do well late game. Just because then my tanks kind of just camp their carries. It's true. I think when Zed's like a lot of Zed's mechanics are throwbacks to the earlier seasons when games lasted longer and you hit level 18 like every game. Like if you look at his passive scaling, it ramps up at level 17 LOL, and his resets are only a thing with 3+ points in W. Yeah, that's the okay. That's the thing that's happening. So when I alt and I put my mouse here, look at like I want the shadow to go directly behind them, but it ends up going behind like forward, but it ends up going behind. That's just what I mean by the minimum cast range. So this is what I mean. So like you alt and they move, so you want to just doesn't go in the right spot. I see that stuff, but I also see any of 40 champions just seeing you when you get out of R. Perhaps this is also with the expectation that the late game team fight lasts long enough for you to wait it out some CC spells. Just like you'll often just be stunned as you get out of R, because you get stunned when you come out of R. Like, well, back then you would get stunned a lot more coming out of R. So if you try to cast within the minimum cast distance, the game just calculates the direction from your mouse, then multiplies that unit vector. Yeah. Like it never used to feel like bad though, back when you landed in front of them. Because like let's say I landed here, my W would be behind them. So it swings wildly. I s- I s- what if his W had no minimum cast range? Because this would make him feel better. I don't know how much better this would make him, but sometimes you just harden because of that. It's not really like the best topic to ask him about. Suspect we don't like it when you're literally on top. Okay, I get it. Okay, no. So he's basically saying that they want this because it adds like more counterplay, more skill. You can't just like go keep your mouse on them in WEQ after ulting because like W has to travel the minimum distance first. So it's gonna like there's enough distance basically to where there's a chance you could dodge like one of them. But yeah, I see what he means. He's probably right. So patrol the indicator shows shorter than the minimum cast distance. Like this is what I've been running the Transcendence Gathering Storm just to like, make up. Like I intentionally overcapped my CDR with this build, and I go Gathering Storm. At like 30 minutes, you get like what the Reap would give back in the last 9.3. So that's what I've been doing to like manage the nerfs. If they lowered the W cooldown late game by 2, that would have been cool. Because then you could like do this combo and your thing would have been reset there. We sometimes do a bit of reinterpreting around minimum cast distance when players target too close. Generally, where you are expecting the W shadow to cast after you are watching stream. What do you think if you like? So I'm okay with 22 second cooldown W, but like, what if you moved the 2 seconds to the late game? But if you're watching streams, so like I started taking this and like I showed some other pros and they also run like this build and setup because it like made up for the late game nerf while also keeping the early game. Um, yeah. Oh yes, the impossible to hit Z definitely won't be banned. I was just when I saw you guys nerfing that thing, I was like, oh, maybe they might move it. I wanted to ask you since you're watching, back when Zed shot when they did the assassin rework on Zed, they nerfed the E cooldown to like 5 seconds, and they made it so that it goes to 3 seconds. It was 4 flat before. The logic was like they wanted to nerf like just ulting someone and auto Eing them down, nerf that, but then at the same time they wanted to be more rewarding for hitting multiple E's, so they made it like easier to hit 2 shadow slashes. They said it would do more damage if you hit 2. But like nowadays, you don't really go for it usually. So I'm saying maybe bring it back to the old version of just leave it flat at 4 seconds and buff the damage again. But then that would be more frustrating to play against. But yeah, it's just like there's room in the kit. I feel like mostly in the E and the passive, you can't really do much to the Q. Can't do much to it either. Maybe 21 seconds, but I don't know how that would work. You could remove I don't remember the exact changes in the assassin rework. So his E used to be 4 seconds flat at all ranks, but it used to have like 200 base damage and like better AD ratio, like 0.9. Then they nerfed the AP ratio and they nerfed the cooldown by 1 second, but they made it that so that it scales down to 3 seconds once you have it maxed out from 5. So you would have a much easier time hitting 2Es. And what this ended up doing to Zed, oh, base change. Yeah. They changed the cooldown basically. So what it did though was it made him super CDR reliant. So you have to go for like heavy CDR builds just to get like to make up for the damage lost. You need to hit 2Es. I don't know what Riot wants to do exactly with the change with Zed. Maybe they want him to stick with the assassin like cookie cutter. It has to be strong early and weak late. Undoing that thing on his E would help him be stronger early. Then it would create more frustration though. I like him being late. It's just always nice. Having the W percent AD come back and actually yeah, you could probably remove like what if you guys brought back the W percent AD but just made it so his ult had no base damage. That way it's pure like you hit stuff, you're rewarded. And it also makes it harder to just ult someone and hit them down with like autos and E's. Because you would need like an extra auto at least. So they would make that way harder. So removing the base damage on the ult would probably be a really good thing. And bringing back his late game scaling too. Tell him about R range bug if he doesn't know. That's not a bug actually. It's intentional. Consider that R change when looking for places to buy power. It only does a single auto attack, but it could make a difference. Like let's say you ult someone and they flash right away, they don't die. Whereas sometimes they might just die anyway. Like I ult someone, I ignite them, like ult ignite as I'm landing, and then right before I land, they flash away from auto, and I don't get E off. Then they live because they timed their flash perfectly. If there was no base damage on the ult, especially early game. So like if the jungler ganked and blew Zed's ult, and then Zed wants to dive you, it's going to be a lot harder for Zed to dive you without flash. Frustration comes from, oh, I'm Zed, I alt auto E, auto, and then I ult back, and he took 1,200 damage from the ult for like 2 autos and an E, right? So it's like removing the 420 damage, he would have only taken like 800 maybe. But like, yeah, it's like a pretty big hit. The pass through damage could probably just be like buffed. Like the nerfs on his Q would actually not matter at all. Because you guys, they said they wanted to nerf his burst, but they didn't say they wanted to nerf his poke, and I'm not sure like whether that was discussed, because his poke was gonna get nerfed at the same time, and he's a poke champion in lane. So like, if you making him a better champion early would definitely all be around the pass through damage on the Q. If the pass through damage was better, then he would have better poke, and he would be a better champion early game. Q pass through damage reads to me as if we wanted to buff Pro Zed. But that's every Zed though. Every Zed pokes with pass through. Oh, wave clear. Like wave clear is really big in Pro, but you would have to use W to wave clear. The W's a long cooldown. Yeah, exactly. So you're thinking the same way. Because like if you're using, you need to use W to like kill a wave anyway. So it wouldn't really. It's kind of like buffing his wave clear, but it's not really because it's still tied to his W. So okay, I have fucking Prio against TF, but then I have no W for 22 seconds, and the fight was right here, and my W is like on a 20-second cooldown, you know, or it was right here, and my W is on a 16-second cooldown, walking from mid to there for here. It's still gonna be like nowhere near up, but at least like you still get there first. But what does Zed really do without W? Nothing really. Generally wouldn't give him percent armor pen. It's kind of the thing opponents are supposed to build against to defend against him. That's true, but it's just like Jace has it, you know, and Jace is more tied to physical damage than Zed. Dead channel, dude. I've hit some viewers before. I'm just maybe nobody cares about Zed balance. Jace is a fucked up champion. Jace is Zed's cousin, isn't he? Like design wise, the designer who makes Zed made Jace too. I remember reading that in the wiki. Jace has like so much. He's got more magic damage than Zed and built-in percent pen. He's an artillery lane bully that bursts you if you all in him. Hell yeah, Jace is nice. Mid lane Jace sucks ass right now though. It's really sad. Zed was certainly T. Wait, is it on the wiki? Then he's not credited for it. Certainly T actually makes Zed, because on the wiki it's like I wasn't working at Riot back then. Oh, okay, so you maybe don't know. Because I read that Wave Break made the idea of Zed when his ult spawned behind them, and certainly T suggested ult spawning where you ult from, the shadow spawning where you ult from. That's what I read. I don't know if certainly T cares though. You could ask him. I feel like if the item system was different, by the way, like Zed would be fine late, because you wouldn't have to get like every armor pen item to do something as a caster. If you're an AD champion, you'd be able to get Bork on Zed, like maybe sacrifice Cleaver, but you wouldn't really want to do that. We also have been talking about the changes to lethality items. You need Ghostblade to get in range of them and stick onto them when you ult with Bork. Okay, but then when you stick onto them, you don't want to get CC'd, right? If you're going Bork, you want the Edge of Night too. So you would have to give up Duskblade, but then the power curve of a build like this would just be so bad. You wouldn't actually have a realistic way of building into this. Amazing, it's just never like actually viable because of the build path on that Zed requires. It's like like I feel like if Duskblade shouldn't have the bulk of the lethality. Duskblade is really just meant to compete with Ghostblade. The trade-off is kill threat versus roam threat. Yeah, but it kind of just screws over like certain decisions because like in pro play they don't want Duskblade um over like Ghostblade Edge of Night if they can. I showed Jensen this build and like he told me the pro meta shifted in scrims because of this build path with this rune with this rune page. And I was talking to him, and then like another pro mid laner came to me, and he asked me like, "What are good Z counters? How so? Like, how did this affect the meta in the scrims?" So I showed Jensen like, okay, everyone's doing this cookie cutter like Ghostblade, Duskblade into like defensive boots, and I'm like, skip the Duskblade, get Edge of Night, which is better because you can't be peeled, right? And if like vision control, like sure, Duskblade's nice, but if you have a sweeper, it's not gonna. It's the same thing. It's almost the same thing. The difference is very small. Like as long as you're playing smart, like Duskblade just means okay, I'm walking through river. Champion vision range is like from here to here, and I have a pink here, and I have a pink here. Okay, so there's a pink here and a pink here. They have Duskblade, and ward vision would be like if there's a ward here, it'd be like around here, or whatever. But your Duskblade starts ticking when you walk right here, so you know there's a champion there. So you're gonna be careful about the bush anyway. You can still get away with not going Duskblade. Um, and if you go with CDR boots with Edge of Night, the fact that you're getting CDR boots gives you a better early game snowball. You get better wave clear. It's cheaper boots, so it helps your snowball. It also lets you get Edge of Night, and the health from Edge of Night definitely makes up for the damage mitigation you'd get from the resistances off of boots. And you'd have a shield, a spell shield. So it's honestly much stronger, like Ghostblade, Duskblade into defensive boots. And then at the same time, because you have Transcendence, because you're going Transcendence with this build, it lets you get Black Cleaver second. And you overcap, and overcapping is actually super good. So you get 12 AD, 12 extra AD, and then you also have like crazy health because you want 250 health plus 400. So you have an extra 650 health. Like that's like two spells really in the mid game, or like one ultimate in the mid game that you can just tank for free. Plus you have a spell shield, and you have max CDR way sooner than anyone else. It also doesn't make this build doesn't make Black Cleaver build path feel as bad. But yeah, this and at the same time like this build path is like lets you get you don't have to get Cleaver if you want. You can just get Last Whisper and like you have 30% CDR, and with blue buff you'll cap. And this is like crazy. Like if you want to assassinate the ADC, that's super good. So that's interesting. We don't actually hear that much from pros, so a lot of it I guess is work on our end. Thing about why Zed was so good in scrims is because Zed is a good late game champion, and this rune page gives you crazy late game because you're over capping. But yeah, like having the basically if you guys gave him like maybe the W percent AD back, then you could get in your runes. I wouldn't take this anymore. I would go Scorch and maybe Absolute Focus or Transcendence, depending on what I feel like. But probably Absolute Focus. Just go for poke, a slightly weaker early game and a slightly stronger late game than what this is. Like the changes pretty much just reversed Zed's flow, I guess. But now I feel like we're just in a situation where like the early game sucks and the late game sucks because you don't have that late game help. And if you take late game runes, you don't have an early game. That's just one crit. Please don't build Shiv on Zed. it's I build it every time I go to late game. It's actually the best late game item on Zed because if I ult like an ADC and I Shiv crit them with E, they're dead. Like they get like popped for like 1.5k, and I can just triple Q like the support or something. It's easy double kill, and it gives you that attack speed too. So in the split push, like 1.8, like this amount of attack speed lets you get like 2 or 3 extra autos off. Did you mean to say Gunblade? Gunblade's broken. Do something about it. Why do boards users complain about Duskblade having 30 to 150 damage when Gunblade is like, how much is it? 175 to 253. It's insane. It's way better, and it gives more damage, like stat wise too. and it gives healing, which is a like a fighting stat too. Whereas this is like a utility stat, gives less damage. I guess it gives CDR, but I'd rather have healing over CDR. I don't usually read the boards. Yeah, same. I was kind of just memeing you a bit because I know riders hate the boards. Like if he was a late game champ, like nobody would have issues with late game Zed was least frustrating to play against. Yeah, because like does anyone care if Nasus gets strong and one shots you? It's like no, Nasus you had a chance to beat him. Kassadin, same thing. Like Vagar, same thing. You can shut him down. Although to be fair, like Zed's kit would be harder to shut down because of his Q range and having energy, you'd be able to farm. I'm not convinced late game theory would apply to Zed, since I think a lot of the oh well I got one shot late game by Nasus Vagar come from the expectations that those champs are good late and bad early. I don't think most people think of Zed that way. That's actually true. A lot of people, even high elo, when I tell people, especially in season 8, like armor pen is a late game stat. Like you can get nearly true damage. Lucian has GA tabbies. You have all your armor pen. It doesn't matter. Like the armor is not even there. Oh, yeah, that's the staff name. Right. An item like that for assassins would be super cool. Like you wouldn't make it cheap, right? So you wouldn't make it a mid game and early game item. You'd make it an expensive lethality item. It's gonna be spaghetti time if we make that. Yeah, 5 minutes. Uh, but yeah, you can make it like a 3.5k gold item, and like once you get it, it does something really cool for you as an assassin. Zed, it's snapback. Kha'Zix it doesn't get to evolve everything. Basically did that for the Odyssey game mode. I didn't play the Odyssey game mode. Yasuo Windwall retaliating with tornadoes if it blocks something. That's cancer. Imagine if that was live. I ZQ his tornado. He tornadoes back at me from his wind wall when he wind walls my Q. I get knocked up and bursted. It could be live. I just need to sneak in a single line delete. Yikes. I'll finally be able to play Yasuo again. I'm bad at him too. Dude, join the club. I'm actually shit at Yasuo. Oh yeah, by the way, since you're here, what happened to fixing this bug? You Q, put an input command, it cancels the animation. I see that his new skin has it. On his new skin, if you Q and start moving, he finishes his Q animation. But on every other Z skin, it does. Dude, come on, dude. I've told you about this like 10 times. You go Q, you put an input command. He doesn't keep his arms behind his back like this. I've been pretty swamped. I know about the bug. That's like what makes Zed's Q feel good though. Back in season 5, I remember the glory days of Zed. You would queue and you would look cool in lane for 2 seconds after queuing. Thanks a lot for coming to and talking to us, Captain Gameplay. We really appreciate it.